I'm very happy today that joining me, there are two very outstanding entrepreneurs. Here in Hong Kong with me is Peggy, co-founder of Link, and virtually joining me is Jean, co-founder of Polygens. Hi, Jean.
Hello,
So you
great to
are
be
now
here.
in the States, right?
Yes, I'm in Palo Alto in California.
Okay, yeah. So today's the topic that we want to go deep is about the shaping the new normal. But before that, why don't you? I mean, you guys take a minute to tell the audience about your business and especially what inspired you to start your entrepreneurial journey. Maybe we'll start with Peggy first. You have been a banker, and what makes you, start Link?
Yeah, thanks, and glad to be here. Thanks for having me. It's a thinking back, right? A lot of the inspirations has come from the personal experience. Really in two parts. One is my family, the fact that they have been entrepreneurs, and in many ways I see a lot of questions and problems that they encounter on a day-to-day basis. From my perspective, it's like it would have been great if they have access to the right person who can guide them and just answer simple questions even sometimes. So in my mind, it's like if there's something out there that allows them to do that, simple things like how do I set up a trade show in Europe, that would be really great. Then fast forward when I was in finance, as a banker and as an investor, having looked at different industries and regions over time, a lot of times it's about talking to the right person on the ground. And there were services out there that allow me at the time as an investor to talk to the right experts, the right executives, from different perspectives, and to understand the opportunities. And having kind of experience and an accessing those services, I think there are a lot of ways to digitize that, use technology to better organize people by expertise, and thereby actually allow a much easier and efficient access. To me, that impact for businesses and allow them to then better inform their decision making by talking to the right person can have actually pretty significant impact and derivative impact as a result. So that's really why, we have taken the kind of a pivot in our career to start Link.
Right.
We think that purpose is worth us kind of dedicating our time to.
Right, I see, I see. So turning to Jin, yeah, I understand that you have, suspend or hold on with your PhD studies right now to really concentrate on Polygens. What inspired you to start Polygens?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me. So similar to Peggy, sort of our company is sort of the academic version of Peggy's knowledge sharing platform, where at Polygens, we are an online research academy where we pair secondary school students with PhD level researchers and mentors to work on these personalized research projects that help them discover an area of academics that they have always been interested in, but never had the opportunity to explore. So whether it's subject areas like fashion design or architecture or computational biology, or something more traditional like physics and math, students who are interested in these things can engage in uniquely tailor-made projects with some of our mentors. And the inspiration for that is also definitely personal. I've always been sort of on a one-track road towards academia. I was working on my PhD here at Stanford in comparative literature when I realized that, hey, maybe education is actually what I'm really the most passionate about. And at Stanford, I've taught lots of courses in French and literature. And I realized that really it's the knowledge sharing aspect of education and connecting on a human to human level with students that I find really the most inspiring and the most rewarding. And so it's at Stanford where I met my co-founder Janos, and we decided that mentorship and increasing access to research is definitely something that we want to democratize to all communities around the world. And what better way to do that than having a virtual online platform where students and mentors can really connect. And so I've been in school for many years now. I came to the US from Hong Kong for college in 2013, and I've been here ever since. And so I've been feeling kind of burnt out from school as well. So it was really a perfect sort of catalyst for me to take a little bit of time off, to work full time on Polygens and to see where it goes.
I understand that both of you have done some fundraising already. So can you tell me a bit more about the differences in terms of like pitching to investors in different places, like in Asia and also in North America, which I think, Peggy, you have raised funds or you have investors from North America as well. So what are the most difficult things you have seen or you have been asked?
It's actually a very interesting experience. Also, like now we have done a couple of rounds now, so we've seen the really early stage and sort of the growth stage investors, and you're right, across different regions. There are some differences, and I'm generalizing, right? Caveat here is I'm generalizing. I think overall the early stage investors, the really interesting aspect here, I think. Different markets, different investors will have different priorities, right? And also different focus.
Right.
Depends on the opportunity set that they're more familiar with, right? And they would see more. So for example, in Southeast Asia, it's always been a consumer growth story.
Right.
So there were and had been a lot of consumer startups. So as a B2B business, we had to be pretty good with filtering out who would be the right investors for us.
Right.
We, obviously as an early stage company, especially going through the period of time we're trying to figure out, right, that early stage, it would be really conducive if you work with investors that understand how, let's say, to set up enterprise sales model, things like that. So that took a bit of work because the market generally was more consumer oriented, right? I think similar to China for a good period of time.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So I think the recent kind of development on B2B businesses in Asia. You see new crop of investors actually came into the market. So that's something that I think, sharing with other founders is that it's not just about investors choosing to invest in you. Founders also need to choose the right investors to work with.
Right.
So we had to, again, do the same thing, like research and find out who would be the right type of investors for us given our profile as a global startup based in Hong Kong looking to expand there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about Jean? What is your experience in doing fundraising in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely much more early stage than Link. We've done one round so far, our pre-seed round. But I absolutely echo a lot of what Peggy just mentioned in terms of having to be selective. And for us, really, the main thing that really stood out to us is looking for investors who are very mission aligned. So not only investors who want to see us grow, obviously, want to see healthy numbers, but also investors who are as invested in our social mission and in our social impact goal as we are. And so for us, that's obviously our nonprofit pro bono scholarship fund, where we provide our services for free to low-income students and students from underrepresented backgrounds. And so having investors who also care about that and who also want to see that part of the company grow as fast and as robustly as the for-profit side has been really important to us. And also we've been lucky that we have found investors who have been extremely supportive of obviously both sides of the company.
Now turning to our opening topic, saying about discussing about shaping the new normal, right? So we all experience the impact on COVID-19, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of difficult times for you to really in terms of changing your business model to suit what the need under lockdown or team management. So maybe start with Peggy. Have you tried to pivot or your business model in order to better suit what is required right now because of the pandemic or the effects after the pandemic when people start realizing that it's so important that we can get connected virtually, or we have to be more prepared about being having sudden impact on our business. So can you share us about your business, experience on that?
Yeah. So I think for us, we have been relatively fortunate at Link, really because we are a virtual platform, right? I think similar to Polygens, the connection can happen anytime, anywhere, and it's relatively easy to actually still happen, no matter whether there's COVID or not. And in fact, actually, people have more time as a result of COVID because stay at home, no travel. And in fact, that our customers, when they usually when they need to talk to experts on Link, it's because they need to, whether it's pursue a new business strategy or investment or looking at an opportunity or have a question. And what is happening now is you can't travel, right? You can't really see and be there in person to solve the problem. So in many ways, actually having an expert on the ground helps in this situation.
Right.
So we actually see a bit of an increase in demand in this period of time.
Okay.
One takeaway though, I think what you mentioned there is very key. I think here it's about figuring out your mix of business so that as you go into this type of situations, you have levers and you have different pockets that you can boost or pull up
Right.
when you need to balance out
Yeah.
changes. Very interesting phenomenon we saw was in Q1 when China was the first country to see COVID.
Yeah.
We obviously saw some impact initially before it come back up.
Right.
And then it shifted to US and India
Right.
and Europe.
Yeah.
So what we saw was that shift in the revenue from these different region. We have 30% of our revenue from India, 20% from China,
Right.
50% from rest of Asia and US, Europe. So it was in a way, we're very fortunate because the fluctuation in the revenue mix was so
Right.
that our revenue growth has been pretty resilient, consistent.
Right.
But I can imagine if we didn't go down the route of diversifying of
Right.
our revenue geographically earlier on, we would have been way more impacted,
Yeah.
in the past couple of months than now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
How about Jean? I mean, your business model, most of your teachers or mentors are based in North America, whereas the students or the mentees are in Asia. How does that impact your business model, and how you try to pivot and make sure that you survive even under the effect of COVID?
Yeah, for sure. So, because education has been sort of always been a seasonal industry, with the summers always being the hottest, both temperature-wise and in terms of business, just because students have a lot more time during summer vacations to engage in extracurricular activities, in these kinds of project-based learning opportunities, etc. And so this summer, we saw a huge uptick in demand from students both in Asia and also in the US. So when summer hit, so sort of like from April all the way to July, we saw many students come to us sort of crying for help because their internships were canceled or their research experiences at universities have been postponed, or even their summer camps have been completely canceled. And so in order to meet this demand, we had to recruit like crazy for mentors. We also expanded, we doubled our team size because of this surge in demand. And it's been a really great exercise in sort of like thinking on our feet, working really fast technologically on our platform, and also learning as much as we can from our students to see how we can best serve them. And so I definitely say that COVID has brought us a lot more students, but also interestingly, a lot more students from the US, especially over the summer, because COVID really started closing schools later towards the spring in the US. And so the summer was really when students, parents started really panicking about their summer plans and also their fall plans. And so because of that, our team has also really diversified because of this upsurge of students when we had to hire more software developers, as well as we hired a head of customer success as well. And because of remote work, our team is also super international. We have developers in Hungary and then other employees elsewhere in the US as well. So definitely a really challenging time, but also really exciting for the business to be able to serve as many students as we can worldwide.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That is really great to have to hear that the pandemic has not affected your business. So we are talking about team just now. Jean, you mentioned your team, in different places, and during this pandemic, how do you see the challenge, in managing your team, and how do you use technology to help you better make use of your team to really support the business?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have people from all over the world really working with Polygens. And so time zone is definitely a big challenge. Even with Zoom, even with Slack, all of these productivity management tools can't really beat time zones when you can't sort of like instantaneously communicate during the day when you have problems. But I think because we're a small enough, lean enough team, we've developed sort of organic and creative ways of communicating with each other so that we can maintain sort of healthy levels of communication. And for myself and my co-founder, we're both based in Stanford, so we are able to socially distant work together, although obviously that's also not ideal. So definitely a lot of thinking on our feet and thinking about how to best manage a very diverse and international team with a lot of different languages as well and cultures for sure. But we're really excited to see sort of how remote work could bring us even more talent from different areas in the world when we no longer have to be constrained by geographical limitations. And we're actually in the process of hiring software developers right now as well. And so removing that geographical limitation has been both liberating and frustrating for sure.
Of course. So how about you, Peggy? You in your business you use a lot of AI and machine learning to match mentor and also mentees, I would say. So how about managing your own team? Do you make use of any special or more innovative technology to help you manage your team?
We use obviously communication tools, right? And in different markets, there are different tools that works better. But overall, we have some, central systems where basically our team would communicate, on. But the good thing here, we started off, just like Jin here, we started off as an international team. We started off actually with remote offices.
Right.
In a way, it was actually a pretty smooth transition. It's almost like, hey, the next day it's already everybody remote, work from home, without much disruption. So it's like a mode that we're quite familiar with already from even before COVID hit. It's just that I think what it is because now you actually cannot go into the office in some countries that we operate in. That fact is that you have a lot less chances of actually seeing the person that you're working with. So our HR team spends a bit of time to organize, social events on Zoom and whatnot. But at the same time, I totally, agree that it's not easy, and it's not easy to integrate new joiners during this period of time, because I think the new joiners actually need that in-person interaction to really kind of get a sense of the energy and whatnot of the firm. In this period of time, it's not easy. But at the same time, I think we make do, we adapt and try to make it happen. And I think so far so good. Challenging, but I think so far so good.
So have you done any hiring during this period from interview to really, signing the contract? Okay, it's very challenging, isn't it? So how do you, find find this person is a right fit, without really meeting him or her physically?
Yeah, so we have been working on revamping our recruitment framework so that let's say the questions that we cover and how do we structure the process, the steps, so that it is a bit more conducive for this remote format. So, for example, give it a bit more time on questions that the candidates have for us. Actually, spending a bit more time and giving more collaterals for the candidates so that they have a clearer expectation of the roles and the opportunities. These have been, I think, crucial, and I think it's still a bit of an in progress for us. But at the same time, I think, particularly in times like this, we see that the need is even more prominent than even before. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, I have one question to Jean specifically for you. I am, also very passionate in terms of looking at how to, groom the younger generation. But there's one thing is bothering me is for the top scorers from DSE exam for the last couple of years. Most of them, if not all, go to medical school or professionals like law. This year, I think all except one go to medical school, and the odd one goes to international business. I think this is quite common in Asia. I don't know what you think about this, and anything that you are planning, or how does Polygens help to really inspire more diversity, or really to inspire the younger generation to pursue something they are really passionate instead of something quote unquote seen to be good for them to study. I'm not saying that I'm not criticizing these students who choose medical school. Maybe it's their passion. But looking at this trend, it seems, in Asia, it's quite, stereotype, right, for top scorers to choose professionals in their studies.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm really hoping that Polygens can help to combat and to inspire students to fall in love with the humanities, with social sciences, even with hard sciences and art and medicine. And I think one way in which we're really trying to really encourage students to explore beyond what their parents really want them to major in is to pitch Polygens as sort of a test drive for something that you've always been curious about but never had the chance to really explore. Because obviously Polygens is not university, it's not college. So if you try out something like the humanities or literature, that doesn't mean you have to commit to it in college, but it's a really great sort of short temporary period where you can really test out these subjects to see if there's something you really like. And to really encourage that, we have really doubled down on our recruitment of really stellar humanities teachers. We have a number of fine arts teachers as well, whether it's photography, fashion design, oil painting, so that when students go on our website and they take a look at our list of mentors, they see more than just scientists and physicists and doctors and engineers. And I think having that kind of visibility is really important, like giving the humanities the kind of visibility that it deserves. And the second thing I would also say is that I'm sort of leading by example. I mean, I majored in and I'm pursuing my PhD in something that most Hong Kong parents would think is completely useless and unemployable. I mean, I'm working on French and Arabic literature. Like, who would employ someone who has an expertise in that, right? And so sort of like acting by example, someone with my kind of skill set and kind of really niche academic and intellectual interests could still pivot and do something really fun and really cool, like entrepreneurship. And sort of showing by example that the skills you learn and gain from majoring in something like in the humanities are actually really transferable and really applicable to whatever kind of industry you end up wanting to pursue afterwards. And so I would say these two things are definitely something that I care deeply about. And I really hope that, part of our social mission too is to uplift the humanities and also uplift kids who are interested in the humanities, but who maybe don't have the courage to really pursue it yet.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, after COVID and you know, of all the changes that we see in our living, working, I think you never know what kind of skills you'll need to embrace the new, you know, the new age, right? So to conclude our sharing today, I would like to ask both of you to give a piece of advice for the upcoming entrepreneurs who want to venture out to start their own thing, and especially after, you know, the COVID and what you have experienced and try to pivot to survive and grow. You know, yeah, what you see about the future? Maybe we'll start with Peggy.
I think in the context of entrepreneur founders that are starting out, something that I've learned myself, right, is that it's about also when you talk to people, it's about discerning what would be relevant at that particular point in time, and that changes depends on the context and the time.
Right.
So it's important to get that diversity of thought. And get various viewpoints and perspectives on the topic that you're looking at.
Right.
But at the same time, not everything would be applicable to you at that time. And everyone would come at it from a different angle, different perspective. You have your perspective and you have context of why you start this business, what you see as an opportunity. So it's the fine balance between having your own conviction, getting advice and listening to you know, insights and from experts in the fields and from people who have more experience than you. But it's about discerning what you would like to take to actually apply to what you want to do. Not everything would be right for you. But it's always good to hear the other perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about Jane? What is your piece of advice for young people to, you know, really come out and pursue something different?
Yeah, I think the piece of advice that I would have really liked someone to give me when I was starting out is to take the risk when you're young. I'm a normally very risk averse person, and I always want to play it safe. And I think that's maybe one reason why I decided to go straight into the PhD. School is something I know I'm good at, so why don't I just play it safe and do it? And I think it really took starting this venture for me to learn that risk taking is not only really healthy, but also really fun. And it's something that we all should do more, whether we're young or old. And I think a healthy dose of risk taking is really important when it comes to starting out in entrepreneurship, obviously, because you're starting something completely new, hopefully. You're working with a completely new set of people, new idea. You're hoping to make a small dent in the world or a big dent. And all that requires a kind of risk-taking mentality that is really important to cultivate. And I think that's definitely something that I wish I had known earlier and that I had sort of fostered earlier in my own attitudes.
Okay. Wow. So we learned a lot from both of you today, and thanks again for joining us, and hope, you know, all the best for your business, and also stay safe during the pandemic.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.